All right. Good evening and welcome to the October 10th, 2024 meeting of San Diego Community Power's Community Advisory Committee. My name is Matthew Vasilakis and I represent the City of San Diego. As the chair of the CAC, I welcome members of the public, San Diego Community Power staff, and committee members joining us in person and online today. A special thank you to the stellar Community Power staff for making this in-person meeting possible and the City of San Diego for accommodating us today. I will now call the meeting to order. Our meeting clerk, Marisela Hernandez, will now call the roll.
Chair Vasilakis.
Present.
Vice Chair Emerson.
Emerson, here.
Maria Castañeda.
Present.
She is. Present. Anderson present.
Here. Present. Wonderful. Yeah, can we test? Remember Hammond's?
I am here. It's cutting out on audio.
Okay, we just heard you right now, so we'll touch and go with it then.
Thank you. No, hearing you has been cutting out.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't hear my name.
Gotcha. Okay. Let us know if the issue persists, and then we'll see if we can address it. Thank you, Member Hammond. All right, well, I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Thank you. We would also like to take a moment to respectfully acknowledge that the Kumeyaay Nation are the original inhabitants of the land now known as San Diego, where this meeting is taking place today. We carry their legacy forward, ensuring that their traditions continue to thrive in gratitude and strength, and we stand with the Kumeyaay Nation, connected to our past and committed to a more just, sustainable, and resilient future for all. Thank you. We will now move on to, having our quorum present. First up on the agenda is special presentations and introductions. Today, we'd like to give a warm welcome to several Community Power staff who have joined the team recently. Jacqueline Vogel, Project Operations and Proposal Manager, Rachel Zook, Program Manager, and Asia Holmes, Senior Settlements Analyst, joining us virtually. Would you all like to address the group?
Vogel, I just recently joined the program team.
Full.
We take.
Gotcha. All right, we're going to do a little bit of a recess to fix some audio issues. All right, we are back after some audio fixes. I also just want to include on this list of new hires, Kate Regal, a public outreach coordinator, now on public affairs team. Yes, for the remaining staff that we had listed, would anyone like to address the group? See Asia's hand raised.
Hi, I'm not sure if I missed my chance. I was having trouble hearing as well. But I'm Asia Holmes. I'm the new Senior Settlements Analyst. I have over 10 years of energy experience, and I'm happy to be back in the green energy space and excited to help SDCP achieve our goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Asia.
Go.
My name is Kate, and I'm a new public outreach coordinator in San Diego Community Power. I'm really excited to be here. I got a degree in environmental sustainability from San Diego State, and I interned at the City of San Diego Stormwater Department. And I'm excited to raise awareness about San Diego community power.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, Kate.
Welcome.
And just to confirm, Rachel's not here, correct? All right. Confirm the audio. Oh, yeah. Can we confirm the audio quality? Oh, that's Rachel. Gotcha.
It's Rachel Sugg. I'm on the record as being late today. Very sorry to bring out the traffic here. I recently joined the programs team as the Grid Integration Program Manager. And I joined from a different people to grid focused company where I was director a few times.
Wonderful.
Welcome.
Thank you, Rachel. Are we good on audio, just to confirm? All right, same thumbs up all around. Great. Well, keep me posted if we need to change. And thank you and welcome again to all the wonderful new staff. Exciting to see SDCP continue to grow. That concludes the special presentations for today. We will move to non-agenda public comment. Just as a reminder, written public comments submitted before committee meetings are emailed to all CAC members prior to the committee meeting and will be posted on the website at the beginning of the meeting. Madi, do we have any non-agenda public comment today? Thank you. Are there any items to be withdrawn or reordered on the agenda? Thank you, Madi. All right, we'll move to the consent calendar now, or consent agenda rather. The consent agenda contains items that can be approved as a package without discussion unless a CAC member or member of the public requests that an item be removed for separate discussion and action. The CAC received staff reports for all items on the consent agenda and staff provided an opportunity for questions and comments during briefings prior to the meeting. Today's consent agenda includes approval of the September 12th, 2024 CAC meeting minutes, 2, update on marketing, public relations, and local government affairs, 3, update on regulatory and legislative affairs, and 4, update on programs. Madi, do we have any public comment on any of these items? Thank you, Madi. Is there anyone who would like to remove any item from the consent agenda for a separate vote? All right. Seeing that there are no objections or requests for removal, I will now turn over to the committee members for a motion.
So moved.
Committee member Anderson moves.
I second the motion.
Second from committee member Hoyt. Muddy, can we please call a vote? Aye.
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 Aye. Oh, I see her mouth moving. Committee member Hammond, can you hear us?
After she started talking, I couldn't hear anything.
Oh,
But I.
Thank you.
Committee member Hoyt,
Aye.
committee member Anderson,
Anderson, aye.
Harris,
Yes.
member Montero Adams.
Aye. Thank you. That motion passes. All right. Appreciate that. We will now move on to the regular agenda, starting with item 5, Standard Community Power 5-year update. I would like to note that staff is bringing forth this item at the request of the CAC. I will now turn over to staff to provide the presentation.
Yeah.
Is your mic on?
It is winning, sir. Yes, and I can also project further if that would be helpful. I'll use my stage voice. You got it.
There you go.
But before I continue, however, I would like to just briefly check in with committee member Hammond to see if the audio quality has improved.
I hear you now. Marty cut out at the very beginning and it was silent the whole time.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. I appreciate that, and I will continue on with my presentation here momentarily. I'm John Hebron. I am the Director of Public Affairs for San Diego Community Power, and it is my privilege today to present to you an update on some of the activities that San Diego Community Power has done over the last 5 years since our inception. On October 1st, 2019, we officially came into existence at the time as the San Diego Regional Community Choice Energy Authority. As you can see, we held our first meeting at the La Mesa City Hall under that name, and since then, we have grown quite a bit. In that first year, the cities of San Diego, Chula Vista, La Mesa, Encinitas, and Imperial Beach voted to become members of our organization and gave us really the starting point to create the first CCA in the city of San Diego and the southern region of our county. That same year, the board created its implementation plan that was submitted and accepted by the California Public Utilities Commission. Next slide, please. In 2020, this body was established. As you can see on the slide there, that was actually a screenshot from the very first CAC meeting that was ever held on May 22nd, 2020, when we all had to go virtual. And this body began virtually. At the time, we also, that same year, got our initial funding in $5 million in support from B Plus Foundation, Emerald Blue LLC, which was used as collateral to establish our very first line of credit with River City Bank for a whopping $35 million. Just for context, our annual revenue is over $1 billion today. Next slide, please. In 2021, we began serving our first customers, and that shot there is pulled from the press conference that announced that we would be serving hundreds of thousands of customers throughout the region, with our first ones being businesses in, lost track of my notes here. But we offered two different types of power products. Power 100, which had 100% renewable energy and still have today, as well as our Power On product, which has at least 50% renewable energy and is the default service for all of our customers except for Encinitas. And so our municipal customers were first to be enrolled. Later that year, the County of San Diego and National City voted to join Community Power. At the same time, we also launched our Power 100 Champions program. Next slide, please, where Illumina and the San Diego Airport opted in to 100% renewable power and really kicked off an effort that has organizations such as the Padres and the Wave, who have not only committed to 100% clean renewable power, but really act as examples of community leaders who are embracing the clean energy revolution. Next slide, please.
Another reason to support the Padres tomorrow.
Thank you. In 2022, we became the second largest community choice aggregation program in California after enrolling nearly 700,000 residential customers. In July, we also began conducting our outreach for our community power plan, which serves as a blueprint for our customer programs that we have, and went through an extensive process to make sure that we were hearing from our future customers as well as stakeholders. Next slide, please. In 2023, we expanded to the County of San Diego's unincorporated areas and National City to bring our total to about 950,000 accounts. On top of that, the draft of the community power plan was released to solicit feedback from folks, with approval happening later that year as well. We also launched our first program, which was the Community Clean Energy Plan, and provided nearly $400,000 to 10 local clean energy and green workforce development projects in San Diego County. In fact, we got the joys of cutting the ribbon on one of them, which Committee Member Hammond was heavily involved with in determining Heights just this past week. In addition to that, in 2023, Community Power also completed our first local energy procurement software, resulting in contracts for over 200 megawatts of local solar and battery storage projects that support our goals to have 15% of our energy produced locally by 2035. Internally, we established the JEDI Council that works to infuse justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion at an operational level in all corners of our organization. Next slide, please. We're still in the middle of 2024, but it has been a big year for community power. On July 1st, we introduced two new rate products, Power 100 Green Plus and Power Base, which are designed for companies that want to meet rigorous environmental standards and customers who may want the lowest electricity rates possible. These two products were developed because we listened to the people that we serve and wanted to meet them where they are. In addition, we launched our solar battery savings program as a pilot with $11.5 million. This has been a resounding success, working closely with the development community to encourage solar development and provide an opportunity for folks, our customers, to get solar installations with important battery storage, which not only helps them save money on their electricity bill, but also takes pressure off of the overall load, helping all of our customers across the board. In August, the Public Utilities Commission also approved our the San Diego Community Power and County of San Diego's joint effort to establish a regional energy network that is poised to bring $124.3 million in energy efficiency programs to our region through 2027. This is going to make a massive impact on folks as we continue to move forward and embrace electrification in our region and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Also, our Community and Clean Energy Grants program grew pretty significantly as well. And this year, we were able to award $1.2 million to 16 local organizations for their clean energy projects and workforce development. We have a lot coming up over the next few years, even though we've accomplished quite a lot to begin with. We're continuing our evolution from being a public agency startup to a San Diego institution. In the next year, we are looking forward to bringing forth additional program launches, power purchase agreements, and other items that are serving as foundational elements that will give our customers choice for decades to come. Over these past 5 years, we have gone to more than 500 events across our member agencies in places like Washington, D.C. and Sacramento as well. That way people know about the work that we're doing and can support us in a variety of different ways. We'll continue to meet our customers and stakeholders where they are and continue our fight toward meeting our goal of 100% renewable energy for all by 2035. I want to thank each and every one of you for your service on this important committee, the feedback that you provide to both staff and the board, and look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate the presentation. Muddy, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Thank you, Muddy. I'll now turn it over to CX members for discussion. Member Anderson?
That was a fabulous recap and we appreciate it. Looking forward instead of back, do you create a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan for what's down the road, or you work on a shorter term basis?
I'm delighted that you asked that question. Thank you. We are actually, we've had a strategic plan and we are coming back and revisiting that. And so we'll have more to come on that, but ultimately the strategic plan gives us more of that forward vision. And now that we've hit this important milestone, it's a perfect time for us to take a look back, see what we've accomplished, and really set those high watermarks for the next several years.
Member Harris?
Okay, thank you, Jen, for that presentation. It's really good to hear about all our accomplishments over the past 5 years. And I think there's an important milestone coming up next month. The Vikings Energy Farm, which is located near Holtville, east of El Centro, will be opening. And it's the first project, procurement project for San Diego Community Power that involves both solar and storage, and it will serve approximately 50,000 households. So, you know, our long-term strategy to get to 100% clean energy is to enter into these long-term contracts with locally sourced energy generators. And so this is a really significant project Then I was wondering if you could add in.
Well, until the announcement's official, gotta keep it a little bit close to the vest, but I do appreciate sharing that with the group here. When we are making the official announcement, we'll be sure to have our community advisory committee informed of that. And members of the public will certainly be aware of it as well. So that'll be coming within the next month or so. And I can't wait to talk about it in more detail when we get a little bit closer to that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you so much, Jen. We really appreciate the reflections. Very heartening.
Thank you very much.
All right, we will move to we're still on our regular agenda. Item 6, update on customer operations. I will now turn it over to Ryan Hank, Data Analytics Manager.
Give a short.
I'm going to ask you to get closer to the mic as well. Yes.
Just pull the mic closer now.
And don't be afraid to overwhelm us. So thanks.
Few updates for our customer patient stats. As you know, San Diego Community Power introduced Power Base and Power 100 Green Plus in July. And that requires us to just make a few updates to the staff report and looking at probably every month. So here just a few of the changes. With 2 options, the meaning of opt out and opt down is opt up and down is pretty simple. With 4 options, I want to give the total hierarchy. So the order is by renewable content and cost. So at the top is Power 100 Green Plus, and at the bottom is Power Base. Next slide, please. One change we made was to split up enrollment service option, and we also included the default service option. Simple. Next slide. For down history, we included the product that they opted to. So now we can see the different colors are the different service options. Next slide, please.
Sorry, we'll actually need to pause for another break to get the autos set. So we'll just take a second, Ryan. I apologize. Thank you.
Could we go back? And like to peruse them a bit.
All right, thank you. Apologies while we fixed some audio issues. Ryan, thank you. We can go back to presentation.
Starting with this one.
Chair, if I may interrupt. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and start from the beginning if that's okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm here to present a few changes to the participation and enrollment stats. SDCP launched 2 new products in July with Power Base and Power 100 Green Plus. And because of that, we've made some changes to the numbers that we reported in the staff report. Next slide, please. So here we have split participation by service product. So we show ups and downs. We now display which product the customer has. For opt-outs, we know that they were on before they opted out. Next slide, please. This was a CAC request to visualize opt-out reason over time and to look at trends. As you can see here, the green line is the
typical reason during an enrollment cycle, which is a spike of automatic enrollment. And those green peaks line up with our enrollment, mass enrollment periods. After mass enrollment ends, typically we see rate or cost concern be the top reason. This is consistent with CCAs across the state, in the cycle of the CCA. We've been tracking these. Next slide, please. Knowing that customers choose, or knowing that rate and costs are the top of mind for customers, we've started looking at our opt-outs versus opt-downs to power base specifically. We can see here that this introduction of power base is here to mitigate some of the opt-outs. We can't tell directly what intentions were in each case. Customers that call into the contact center are going through retention.
Thank you, Ryan. Mari, do we have any public comment on the item?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'll turn it over to CAC members. Any questions or comments?
Yes, I do.
Committee Member Anderson?
Could we go back to the last slide, please? Yeah. Now, it looks like, well, first of all, a question. When was opt-down introduced? First in May or July? July. So it looks like during that period, we've had an increase in both opt-outs and opt-downs. What's your hunch?
Sure.
In the absence of data as to why that was?
A very good question. There's a few reasons. The mass enrollment actually ended around end of March 2024 for the remaining county and national city NEMA counts. So that's why you see the dip at the end of March. And so the increase, when you see the increase when we get to June and July, you see that every year through the CCA when customers start to get summer bills and see summer pricing. So in anticipation of that, power base was introduced to give customers another option.
Member Harris?
Yep, I just wondered if, it seems like a very, very small percentage of our customers actually opted down to power base. I'm glad it's there to assist those customers that meets their needs. But would you say that it's much lower than what we thought might happen? Comment on that, Ryan?
We do track the number of customers in power base, specifically because we put a cap on enrollment. So we're tracking that, and it is currently well within our range.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Member Anderson?
If you can go back to the slide that shows the 4 different options. And I was waiting till I have a solar and battery backup, so I was waiting till the end of December last year for me to be fully part of San Diego Community Power. And I finally got around in June. Let's see, where's the one that shows the 4 options, the graphic?
One more back.
That one, yeah. So I finally got around in June to go to Power 100. I didn't really know how it would help, but I wanted to go Power 100. And 2 things. One is I couldn't find in my recent bill where it says I was Power 100. So I called community service, the helpline, and they couldn't confirm it. They said I was already changed, but there was no way to tell on my bill. So that's maybe something you can investigate. Why does it take a few more months before it shows up? Or maybe you can tell me a way in the future, how do you determine if by looking at the bill, which Power 50 or Power 100. And my second question, so the top one, is that for commercial or is that for residential where you can go another level up?
It's a very specific product, typically for non-residential.
For non-res, so more commercial businesses. I see. Okay.
And in response to your question on the bill, if you are on Power 100, you may see the Power 100 premium charge as a line item.
There's a line item that says Power 100? Because I couldn't find it, you know, and the person over the phone couldn't find it for me either. So maybe I should have brought the bill in, but next time I'll bring it. And maybe the next bill might show it. Maybe it took a little more time, but. Okay, thank you.
Member Anderson?
Yeah, I've got two. The first is Power 100 Green. We only have one organization opting in for that. Is there a material difference between Power 100 Green and Power 100, or is it merely the certification that?
Yeah, I can let other team members speak, but yeah, it is certification if a business has a certain need for it. It's a very niche product for people trying to sell.
But there's no difference in the mix between Power 100 and Power 100 Green Plus, other than the certification.
We can let Power Services respond.
Say what?
We can let Power Services respond. We can get back to you.
Okay, appreciate it. My other comment is related to what Larry was just talking about. When I look at my bill, and I opted up some time ago to Power 100, not only is it hard to find that on the bill, but it's hard to find any mention of San Diego Community Power. So this is really a comment for staff and our relationship with SDG&E. Are they essentially freezing us out of information on our bill? And is there a way to negotiate that or force it through the Public Utility Commission so that customers know that they're getting power from San Diego Community Power? I talk to lawyers and PhDs and doctors that have no idea that they're getting their power from San Diego Community Power, even though they are. So I would urge us to make that an important priority in terms of either negotiating with SDG&E or forcing them through some legal mechanism so that San Diego Community Power is more prominent on that bill that you get that's sent out by SDG&E. Thank you.
Sure.
Take that into consideration, or Jackie.
Yeah, just real briefly, Chair and Committee Member Anderson, we're actually in ongoing negotiations and discussions with SDG&E on that type of subject, and fortunately, it takes a little bit more time than what we would all hope.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sure.
Good presentation, but I'd like to join with Larry. I, about a month ago, up to mine to Power 100. It's not on my bill. At least I can't find it. And they assured me it would be on this guy. So something you might look into.
Thank you, Committee Member Hoyt. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the presentation. Appreciate the committee's questions. We'll move on to item 7. Thank you, Ryan. All right. This will be an update on the solar battery savings program. We'll turn over to Emily Fisher, Senior Program Manager, to provide the presentation. And I would like to note that Colin Santulli, Director of Programs, is also joining us remotely, I think. Yay.
Hey, hi, I'm Emily Fisher, Senior Program Manager of the Programs team. I'm excited to provide an update on the solar battery savings program. Next slide. So as you may recall, we did present to you all in June before the program officially launched. So as a quick reminder, the program is in response to net billing tariff. We wanted to create an incentive opportunity to essentially continue the solar and storage growth within the region. We spent around 9 months developing the program and engaging industry for feedback. And then here's the general program summary. So we'll go through it quickly because I'm sure you've seen this a couple of times now. There are two categories for customer incentives, market rate and non-market rate. Non-market rate includes our care and fair customers and our communities of concern. And then there are two different types of incentives. One, there's a rebate based on the battery nameplate's usable capacity and potentially the solar storage AC size for non-market rate customers. And then two, there's a performance incentive based on the battery performance during a daily dispatch for essentially the amount of energy that's dispatched by the battery. And currently the discharge windows are set for 2 hours until the end of 2025, but this may expand in future years. And we are allowing customers the ability to choose how much of their battery they want to participate, with 50% being the minimum. And they also have the option to participate on weekdays only, or they can do weekdays custom runs. Go to the next slide. So we also touched on this in June, but as a reminder, we had originally allocated $6.5 million from the programs team budget. From the initial workshops that we held with industry in January, we learned there was a need for more funding based on demand for the program from industry and our customers. So we worked closely with our power team to explore creative funding approaches. So every year, our power team is required to submit an annual load forecast to the CEC for all of our customers, which in turn determines our resource adequacy obligation. Within that load forecast, there is the option to put in demand modifiers, which can reduce those resource adequacy obligations, creating budgetary savings. So by using historical models, we were able to determine that the power team could support the upfront incentive by assuming 5 years of resource adequacy savings. So we were leveraging the power team's budget, and we were able to get to an $11.5 million budget total, with 43% of that upfront incentive essentially being cost neutral through the program team or power team's funding, or savings really. Additionally, we did look at the cost of power during the on-peak hours based on hedging day ahead in real time, and determined the performance incentive could be paid by power to our customers at a similar rate to what we're paying on the market. So essentially reallocating procurement costs to pay our customers for their actual battery participation. So this creates a program to support our customers in the industry, but truly aligns with our mission of investing in the community and driving clean energy forward. Go to the next slide. So in June, we did talk about the in-person contractor trainings that we had scheduled for June 18th and June 25th at a large local distributor. It's Green Tech Renewables. And due to demand, we opted to actually have 2 additional in-person trainings, one at IBEW and another at Green Tech. So these trainings were before the program launched to essentially allow contractors to get started before the portal was launched on July 28th. So this ensured that we would have a strong start to the program. So for the contractor trainings, we held in-person lunch and learns. We had 44 different contracting companies attend those trainings. And since then, we've converted that training into a mandatory video training within the portal that they're required to sit through before they can actually access the portal and be able to start participating and uploading new projects. Additionally, we did have our first new contractor optional training session today, where we did have over 20 folks on the line to essentially just communicate, any of the new requirements within the program, or making sure communications were clear across all contractors. We also have weekly office hours for contractors to attend, where they can ask questions and we can provide answers, or they can just provide general feedback on the program, which is really effective. And then we also have a weekly newsletter that goes out to our contractors and updates in the portal. So because we have over 50 contractors currently enrolled, consistent communication is so key to making sure everything is the same across all contractors and is a good customer experience across the board. And then for battery manufacturers, we did hold a live virtual training seminar for them that was recorded, and it's shared with new battery manufacturers as they're approved. And we also have a one-on-one meeting with them initially to address programmatic operations and any of the questions they may have. Go to the next slide. So the portal was officially released or launched on July 28th with the official launch of the program. So the portal is the primary application for project communications between ourselves, contractors, and battery manufacturers. So contractors and manufacturers are able to see the real-time budget, associated projects. Contractors can see the projects that they've submitted, the status of those projects, and then battery manufacturers are able to see the projects where their product has been installed and other specific documentation that may be appropriate for either of those two parties. We have made numerous iterations to the portal over the last 2.5 months to make it easier for us to use, for contractors to use, and for the battery manufacturer. So it is a great portal though. We've essentially put all of our communications in there, and we're really excited about continuing to keep using it. Go to the next slide. All right, so our progress since launch. So we did want to start this program with a bang, and it did. We developed a strong relationship with Green Tech Renewables, who really helped us in drumming up interest across local contractors. So like I mentioned before, we do currently have 50 contractors currently approved for the program. We have 14 battery manufacturers approved with a range of different products under each of them. So some may have just one product, others may have multiples. But we do want to note that these battery manufacturers have no financial agreements associated with the program. They're simply participating to increase their market share within San Diego. And then the list of contractors and battery manufacturers can be found on the program webpage in case you want to look at it. So we have received over 1,500 applications total so far, with 500 of those being submitted within the first 24 hours. Since then, we've received about 12 applications per day. So this program has resulted in customers who had originally opted out of community service also re-enrolling. From July 3rd through September 6th, we had about 79 customers re-enroll, and 40 of those were also enrolled within the solar battery savings program. So we're excited to see that this program is also resulting in re-enrollments. And then currently we have 1,100 projects approved with an 85% approval rate. So based on the existing number of applications that we currently have, we are expecting to have 8.8 million reserved, so that brings us to about 77% of the total budget. So we're looking at the current funding being exhausted by the middle to end of November, plus or minus 2 weeks, really depending on how that may change in the future weeks. We're additionally excited to share that 30% or 37% of the projects approved have been for net billing tariff customers. So while a lot of contractors have been returning to their existing solar customers and adding on a battery, there is a significant portion of the projects that are for net billing tariff customers, and we hope to see that increase in the future. Additionally, we have over 5 megawatts currently approved for participation. And based off of a couple slides ago, when I talked through how we procured this and working with the power team, we had originally inputted 5 megawatts for this year. So we're already ahead of forecast in terms of our goal. You can go to the next slide. So another thing to highlight is the engagement that we've seen from our communities of concern. Our average project incentive is around 6.7 thousand, with a slightly lower incentive for our market rate customers, and then a higher project incentive for our CARE, FARA, and communities of concern, with the higher dollar per kWh value and the additional solar incentive. But 32% of the budget for approved projects is going to communities of concern, which is great. We do have a goal of 50%, so we are looking to iterate for future funding cycles and looking to see what we can do to increase that in the current funding cycle as well. And additionally to note, 4% of the approved projects are for CARE and FARA customers, so we're also happy to see that they're participating, although we do hope to see an uptick once the SDCP program funds are released. Go to the next slide. All right, and then as highlighted in one of our goals, if you remember those from the time when I presented in June, one of them really is to build strong relationships with the industry and our customers. So we believe that we've done that through CALSA and through Green Tech Renewables to essentially maximize engagement across the solar and storage industry in San Diego. 60% or 66% of the contractors are actively engaged in the program. We do have a number that have recently enrolled in the last couple of weeks, so we're expecting them to start participating soon. But you can see the engagement in the table on the right in terms of number of projects from each contractor. 36% of contractors are diverse business enterprises and 6% are unions. And then the contractors approved vary greatly in size, from a handful of folks to companies with over 200 people. But we are really proud of the effort that we put into engaging the local contractors and supporting them through this tough transition to net billing tariff. Additionally, I just want to highlight 2 different notes that we received from contractors about the successes of the programs. One of the contractors has seen a 953% increase in battery sales since launching this program. And then another contractor told us that they sold more batteries since the program launched than over the last 5 years. with only 4 of the around 100 projects sold being outside of SDCP territory. So it does show that this program has enabled a much higher adoption rate on batteries, especially for net daily care customers, as we're seeing 37% of those projects associated with net daily care. We can go to the next slide. So as shown earlier, we are expecting funding to be fully reserved by middle or end of November based on the average incentive per project and the number of applications we're receiving daily. So we do expect to shut the portal down once those funds have been fully reserved. So we do want to communicate that to contractors and battery manufacturers with a 30-day kind of notice, given it won't be exact because of the estimation on the timing, but we do want to make sure that they're aware of next steps. But once the portal is shut down, we do plan to iterate and improve communications and clarity, potentially making some program modifications before relaunching the program. And then finally, we are exploring a variety of funding options to keep this program for years to come. That's it. I'll open it up for questions.
Great. Mari, do we have any public comment on this item? Thank you, Mari. Committee members, any questions or comments?
The
Committee member Hoyt?
6,700 figure. How did you get to that number? I looked at the program uses a number of 3,000.
The program manual?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have found that a lot of customers are opting to do 2 batteries. So based on their solar system size, they're able to, which ends up increasing that incentive. Yeah, so the 350 per kWh is essentially rounds out to around $4,000 per battery. And then we are finding that, you know, a number of customers are going for 2 batteries.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. You referred to a relaunch of the program perhaps next year. What's the current plans or likelihood of that occurring?
I'll let Colin answer that if you can get that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. We will totally be depending on availability of budget. That will determine our relaunch date. So it's still too early to say now, but as soon as we know, we'll be communicating out not only to the CAC, but to participants as well to kind of minimize the pause in the program.
Thanks.
Other questions? Member Harris?
Yeah, I wondered if this is getting any publicity around the state or even beyond.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. We have had a lot of contractors throughout the state applying for this program, but if they don't have a local address, they're not getting approved for the program because this is for local industry. So that's exciting to see that word is spreading about it. RE Plus was a conference that recently happened, and I heard a lot of people were talking about the program there. But we've additionally talked with the CEC about the program, and we've also talked with the DOE about the program, thanks to essentially just the industry spreading the word to different parties.
Member Emerson?
You started by saying you wanted to get it off to a good start. It sounds like you definitely did that. So congratulations. And that you're pulling in re-enrollment, people coming back. Do you have any details on how they found out they could use this program and re-enroll, or any?
Yeah, that's a great question. During our contractor training, we told them essentially how to identify if a customer is a SDCP customer or not, and the process steps for how to re-enroll. So they've been supporting the customers in that process. We've actually done pretty limited marketing on as the agency, and it's been mostly up to contractors to market this program to the customers, and they've been doing a great job.
So the contractors pulled them back into our program because of the program. Great. And so 38% of the funding has been reserved so far. Is that my understanding?
67% has been reserved so far. 67%.
Oh, 57. Okay.
67.
67.
Yeah.
Oh. And then so by November, you think it could be filled up?
Yes.
For that. Okay. And 14 battery manufacturers. Could you remind me that you showed a slide that said NEM versus NBT. Can you remind me what's the difference between those two?
Yeah, so BIM 1.0 and then 2.0 were the previous like rates that you could get for your excess going back to the grid. So whether it's excess solar, excess battery, or even excess wind, if you're a resident that has a wind. But so net billing tariff went into effect.
Oh, that's okay.
So that's what, yeah.
I just forgot the terminology. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
the new terminology is actually solar billing plan, so apologies for not using that.
Very good, thank you.
So I'm looking at the numbers. I see that the number of applications from Zero Beach are quite low. Do we know why? And if there's certain things we're doing to increase that?
Great question. We're currently investigating that. We on the PA team is supporting us with reaching out to contractors that have specifically done projects in Imperial Beach and National City to identify what we could do to support them in increasing the number of projects down there.
Great, thank you.
Committee member Hunter Adams.
Sorry, it took me a second to figure out how to formalize this question. I think in your presentation, you said that the cost of procuring energy from someone in the battery program is a net neutral compared to market rates. Do you have any numbers, and I'm sorry if you did state this, of what the cost of installing a battery versus creating a battery storage facility? Is there a ratio there that we might be able to learn from?
Yeah, I'll definitely have to get back to you on that because that is a bit more of an analysis that needs to be done. Larger scale batteries are, of course, lower cost per kWh, but we're really trying to support the community with continuing to grow solar and storage. And so this program is focused on residential, but we do want to open it up to commercial, potentially multifamily in future years to just increase the battery size. But these are all behind the meter projects with the programs too.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Committee member Emerson.
Sorry, yes, one more question. If someone already has some solar, but they want to expand the solar, maybe they're going to get another inverter, they can add more panels in an inverter and a battery to supplement what they already have. Is that possible?
Yes, that's correct. If you have existing solar, you can still add a battery and leverage the battery incentive, or you can add solar and storage, or you can just have nothing and installing solar and storage within this program.
Yeah, because I do see people starting to move more towards like hot water heaters that are electric, and then that means they may need more energy. So that would be a nice option to be able to add that. Okay, thank you.
Member Emerson.
But if people do add more solar panels, they can lose NEM, right?
Correct. If it's, they have the option of adding either 1 kW or 10% of their solar system, and they can stay under NEM. If it's greater than that, they would be transitioned over to net billing tariff.
So if they have 20 panels, for example, they could add only 2 panels in addition to their battery.
Correct.
Thank you.
Member Sclafani.
Very good. So Emily and Colin and programs team, I wanted to say congratulations on showing that you can design and run a highly successful program sort of right out of the gate. I think it says a lot about your talent in San Diego Community Power. And I had a couple kind of questions and comments, and you answered them all in your presentation, so I don't need to go through them now. And the things that I thought were excellent were some of your metrics that you're tracking, particularly the 85% approval rate. I think that is important on its own to share with contractors so that when they come to you to learn about the program, they can see a path to success on the other side, to know that if I talk to you, I've got an 85% chance of not wasting my time. That's a big deal. So if you're tracking those kind of metrics across programs, I think it can do a lot to build your reputation, both here with like contractors and customers, but also in regards to SDREN and with the PUC and CEC and others, and just show how talented you all are at running programs. The other metric that I'm glad you included was on how much of the program allocation went to communities of concern. And I think there's a great, A, story there and benefits for our communities. But B, when you look at some of the federal programs and environmental justice funding and so on, just to be able to put data to, here's the actions we took, here's how we're driving environmental justice. that's why we should be trusted with more funds to expand these programs. I think it really builds your case. So I hope you'll continue tracking these kind of metrics, and just congratulations on your great success.
Thank you.
I will just, my one question is, are there any similar programs at community choice aggregators in the state?
That's a great question. There's a variety of different programs that CCAs are currently implementing. There's just a handful of them that are really doing kind of more large scale programs like SD Community Power is. And so some of them have previously launched a program where it's more working with an aggregator or working with like a PPA third party owner. So there's a couple of different varieties of them, but a number of CCAs are currently looking at what we're doing and looking at how they can make this program similar enough, but model it, to work for their customers as they're looking at reiterating their programs.
That's great. And I hope that you are at conferences nonstop next year, proliferating this type of program, because this is the type of innovation that we're desperately needing in our space. I think to Anthony's point, the metrics that you have are excellent. And this is a wonderful story to share, I think, out in the ecosystem, in the community. So I just really want to congratulate you all and echo Anthony's sentiments. Just this is stellar. So I really appreciate it, Emily. And Colin and the entire programs team.
Thank you. It's really great to hear this positive feedback. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Thank you, Emily. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we move on to item 8, 2024 Community Advisory Committee Work Plan Update. CEO Malays Crespo, Senior Community Engagement Manager, will be providing the presentation. CEO?
On this side of the dais. Okay. Good evening, Community Advisory Committee. Today's item provides an update on progress achieved to date in each focus area of the 2024 Community Advisory Committee Work Plan, as well as an opportunity to discuss how to approach revisions for the 2025 CAC Work Plan if any are necessary. For context, especially for our new members, on February 22nd of 2024 this year, Community Power's Board of Directors unanimously adopted a 2024 CAC Work Plan that aligns with the CAC scope of work and was informed by ample CAC member feedback. Staff leveraged the formation of the Community and Equity Ad Hoc Committee that was stood up last year to discuss revisions to the work plan, which included clarifying strategies under each focus to better track progress and outcomes, specifying proposed educational presentations, defining information sharing protocols to activate member advocacy, deleting redundant areas of focus and updating their titles to reflect status of implementation, and adding civic engagement and participation as an area of focus to explore and develop ways to increase participation at our meetings, leverage your networks, and foster member turnover resiliency. Next slide, please. Over the last 9 months, the CAC has covered work plan tasks as well as others not explicitly included in the CAC work plan, but within the purview of the scope of work. I will now provide key highlights for your area of focus. Under Equity Overview, which prioritizes justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, the CAC has ensured the promotion of equity in all tasks and items brought before them, including the introduction of Power Base as a community power service level for price-sensitive customers, allocations of solar battery savings program within our communities of concern, and considerations around the Community Clean Energy Grant Program, just to name a few. Under educational presentations, in which members may invite and hold training opportunities to assist members in providing ongoing support to staff and its board, staff has facilitated orientation training for new members, communications training, strategic plan updates, solar battery savings contractor training, ensure compliance with ethics training requirements, thank you very much, and provided overviews of the conflict of interest and ethical conduct policy, as well as the Ralph M. Brown Act on public meetings. In the legislative, public policy, and regulatory space, Members have received monthly reports and quarterly presentations on policy activity that allows the CAC to remain informed on key priority issues and quickly mobilize advocacy when needed. And to support the monitoring and implementation of the energy bid evaluation criteria, the CAC has received strategic plan updates and will receive a formal presentation for this in the coming months. On the marketing and communications front, to support strategic outreach efforts to our communities, we are so grateful for CAC members volunteering at outreach events and attending community power workshops, sponsored events, and presentations to really champion our activities and programs within the community. To support the implementation of our community power plan, the CAC has received monthly updates and provided key feedback on programs such as Solar for Our Communities, now Community Solar, the San Diego Regional Energy Network, the Solar Battery Savings Program, the Community Clean Energy Grant Program, and the Flex Load Strategy. And last but not least, the CAC's work plan includes a commitment from members to explore and develop ways to increase participation in meetings, leverage their networks, and create a member and volunteer recruitment pipeline. Under the civic engagement and participation focus area, members have increased interest and awareness by supporting member recruitment efforts. We have recently welcomed during this year 2 new members. We have also provided presentations to the board on committee activities, and we'll be taking part in social media content encouraging further community involvement. Next slide, please. With that update and the end of the 2024 calendar year quickly approaching, this item is an opportunity to reflect on some great achievements that you all have really done, and to think about what the process for crafting the next version of this document will look like. This will be tackled in many ways, including the creation of a temporary ad hoc committee dedicated to this purpose, a delegation to the chair to work with staff in taking the lead in drafting a version this committee can discuss at a later meeting, or in directing staff to present a version for approval with minor or no revisions. Staff is committed to supporting the drafting of the 2025 CAC work plan and notes that a final draft must be discussed and approved by both the CAC and the board of directors by the February 2025 meetings at the latest. That concludes this presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, CEO. Marty, do we have any public comment on this item? All right, just to clarify, is this an item we're voting on?
Yeah.
No, okay, cool. All right, any questions or comments from the committee? I guess one question I have is when would be the discussion in terms of how the work plan is updated be?
The intent, so we could take this as part of like the update. As part of this item, we could be discussing that. If the CAC wanted to create an ad hoc committee that is around the topic that we're currently discussing, legal counsel is here to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we can do that.
No.
No, we cannot do that?
Not do that, no.
So, but that could be part of the discussion for a future action at a future meeting. We're just trying to tackle this item as soon as possible, seeing that the calendar year is coming to a close.
Okay. Well, thank you for presenting the information and letting us know that there's a process to come.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, well, thank you, Sue. Really appreciate this update. Really appreciate all of you for supporting in the outcomes that are listed here and the work that's being done. It's very impressive. I love having all of this structure to keep us organized and on track. So very much appreciated. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes item 8. We'll move to, I believe, our final item, which is item 9, Flex Load Strategy Update. Tim Treadwell, Senior Program Manager, is joining us remotely to provide the presentation.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Tim.
Next slide, please. So I'm here this evening to give the CAC an update on our Flex Load strategy. As you remember, this was presented to the CAC and approved by the board in January of 2024. And the strategy is focused on really addressing our cost drivers for the agency and increasing operational efficiency and ultimately leading to lower rates for customers. So since approval of the strategy, we've been implementing across 3 different areas. developing flex load resource as a power resource for the agency, and documenting, establishing processes to tie that to the savings that the power services team experiences, integrating flex load strategy into our program design, and aligning programs with state policy initiatives. Next slide. So just a quick reminder, when we talk about load flexibility or flexible load, there's a bunch of different names for it: load management, demand flexibility. We're really talking about the ability to move energy consumption or production around to meet the operational needs of the grid or customers. And flex load technologies can either shed or shift energy. So shed is reducing energy, like it sounds, and shifting is moving energy to other times when the grid's less congested, prices are lower, generation is cleaner. So these two things together allow us to create value for the agency and deliver savings to customers. Next slide. So flex load is a resource. Emily talked a bit about this in her presentation on solar battery savings program. And basically, the power services team, in meeting our obligations to provide service to customers, has to purchase two primary commodities. So power and energy capacity and the actual kilowatt hours themselves. And we do that through bilateral contracts with large producers. And in return for those contracts, we receive these two commodities. Next slide. So when we stand up a flex load program and operationalize that for the benefit of the agency and ratepayers, what we're doing is diverting a portion of those payments that would otherwise go to large project developers down to our customers themselves at a ratio that's equal to the value they're providing us. So we divert energy and capacity payments to customers for their installation of batteries, like we just heard about, smart thermostats, water heaters, in the future pool pumps, numerous technologies, and operationalize those assets to shift our load, to shed load, to reduce our resource adequacy cost, and to deliver energy, move our energy to periods of time when it's more cost effective. And that keeps those revenues that would otherwise go to large developers in our community directly to customers for local development. Next slide. So operationalizing those savings, it's really an accounting exercise. So we've been working on a number of tools and internal processes when we're designing programs to document the value of resource adequacy, which is our primary point of savings. You all have heard about our RA contracts and the expense associated with that. So we go through and look at the load shifting and shedding capability of the specific technology, model that over a 5-year period, and then look at that against our forward pricing for capacity and aggregate that all together to get the RA savings that we expect from a program activity. We also have to, when we're calculating that benefit, reconcile it with the evolving rules that we deal with as a load serving entity. You may have heard from the power services team that resource adequacy is changing, the requirements changing from a single target each month to a 24-hour target each month, a so-called slice of day. So we're tracking, working closely with power services to understand the regulatory construct that drives our procurement needs and kind of designing programs around that. Energy is a lot less complicated. The load modification that we implement through these programs is shifting when demand is created. That changes our load profile, which has a cascading effect on our energy procurement. And these two sources of savings are combined and used to support program delivery, and that covers, our incentive cost, and it can in the future cover contract costs and admin cost. And in terms of reporting as we scale this, we're tracking. Emily mentioned the 5 megawatt target and how her program's performing against that. We're tracking RA, we're tracking energy savings estimates, and watching that internally, and we'll be performing evaluations periodically to ensure that the savings that we've estimated and accounted for in our power services procurement are actually showing up. from the programs themselves. Next slide. So you just saw this, but I think it's a nice tie of this, what I'm talking about here from an accounting perspective back to programs. So Emily's program is a great example. It's our first example of this, where we sat down and developed the program strategy. Emily did a ton of great work on program design and modeling when we're going to dispatch those resources. And then we tied that back to our forward curves for pricing and our resource adequacy obligation. And we're able to adjust that through a standard CEC process to get savings next year. And then those savings will continue through the life of the program. This is the template that we'll be using for other programs moving forward. Next slide. So shifting gears from that kind of accounting exercise that we've been working on since January, we've also been integrating the flex load strategies that were presented to this body as well as the board into our programs themselves. So you just heard Emily's presentation. She's done a bunch of work working with manufacturers to ensure that they have the capabilities to actually shift the load and report that back to us. There was a bunch of work done on incentive design to make sure that the amount of money going out the door was tied to the delivered savings that we estimated for that program activity. And then ultimately, setting up contractual relationships with the battery manufacturers to make sure they were prepared to turn over the keys to us to let us do optimization as the program moves forward. Similar efforts have been ongoing with our V1G program, which is currently moving through the procurement stage and will be presented to the CAC and the board next month if all remains on track. And we've also been working with the Equitable Building Decarb program to incorporate our flex load concepts into that broader Southern California regional program and ensure that as we're going into these income qualified homes and we're retrofitting their gas appliances with electric appliances, we're doing it in a way that incorporates load flexibility, helps us manage their usage around TOU rates to deliver bill savings, and also gives them access to long-term reoccurring incentives through load shifting activities. And finally, the SD-REN, which is probably one of our largest programmatic activities that we'll be launching in the next year or so. There's a lot of work here, tons of opportunities to integrate flexibility concepts, everything from contractor training, working with local governments on codes and standards, to the actual installation of the measures and commissioning, and then DER optimization, which is a through line through all these different program types. Next slide, please. So all of the last slide, we talked about kind of ways that we incorporate ideas and concepts into program design to enable flexibility, to kind of lay the groundwork for optimizing these resources for the benefit of all of our customers. But none of that is possible without having this centralized software platform that sits above the programs. And that's known as the DERMS, the Distributed Energy Resource Management System. And we just finished our procurement of the DERMS. It was approved at the last board meeting, and we executed the contract just before the end of last month. And in working to identify and contract for this system, which again is fundamental to the overall DERM strategy, we looked at the different types of integrations the software vendors provided, their ability to optimize and dispatch using external data sources like MIDAS, which is a key regulatory requirement for us. We looked at their program management capabilities to see how we could take some of the manual processes we're using now and integrate them into a software-based enrollment and customer management solution to decrease our labor and increase the efficiency of the process for customers. We looked at asset monitoring and forecasting so we could make sure that our optimization algorithms and when we're dispatching and moving this load around is lined up with our forecasted demand. And finally, looking at security, we wanted to make sure that the hosting strategy and capabilities and permissions set in the system aligned with our IT requirements around security, and that we are protecting the data and the assets of our customers. Next slide. So this may look familiar to the committee. when we came to you in January, we laid out a plan, a 3-phase plan, and I just want to give you an update on where we are on that. So if you click forward one, one of the first things that we planned to do was launch our residential battery program, which went live this summer. And you just heard about that. Very proud of that activity. Emily's doing an amazing job, and we're all proud of her program team. Next, click forward, please. We contracted for the DERMS last month. That was a really big effort as well. We spent most of the summer going through that procurement process, and we're really excited. We actually held our kickoff meeting today with the vendor. So we're ramping up the software now. And click forward one more time. And then the V1G is the last activity in phase one. Where, as I mentioned previously, we're planning to come back to you next month. It'll be a consent item, I believe, for our contract for the V1G vendor to do managed charging. So click forward one. So as we move into next year, just to refresh you all on the plan, we're going to start rolling those battery assets up under the DERMS. So instead of doing a static dispatch with the manufacturer, we'll be dispatching those devices ourselves using a more dynamic control based on our needs and the changing load, leaving the vehicles off to the side for the moment. And next slide. And then finally, as we move into 2026, we'll have everything up under the DERMS and we'll be fully operational with all the program assets sitting under one centralized control. Next slide. So I'm almost done here. This slide shows a couple different things which I wanted to share with the CAC. On the right, you can see the number of assets that are controllable that we expect to be installed through the end of 2027, given current funding and anticipated reach that we put in our filings or applications. So there are a number of devices in here. You'll see the battery savings program, a small bring your own device pilot, our managed charging pilot, as well as our equitable building decarb program and the REN are all in here. On the left-hand side, this Gantt chart shows two things. It shows when these program activities are launching, and then when the assets associated with these programs will be integrated into the DERMS. And this is important because as we begin to integrate the assets, the associated capacity under our control is growing, and our ability to operationalize these resources and reduce our RA exposure is increasing. So this is all critical to bringing this together and actually delivering the savings that we're planning for. Next slide. And to wrap it up, just give you a sense of what we're doing next after this last 9 months of work, where we're headed in the future. We're going to continue to refine that methodology for quantifying the operational savings. I mentioned that transition to a slice of day. That's a big change, and I think everyone in the industry is figuring that out. So it has downstream effects on our programs, and then working on our tracking. Continuing to integrate our flex load strategies into program design. We have a lot of work to do on the REN. There's multiple RFPs coming out. We're in detailed conversations with the equitable building decarb awardee, LA County, for the full region. We're launching the DERMS. Again, our kickoff meeting was today. That's going to be an intense amount of work through the end of the year to kind of get things ready for our first batch of assets to be enrolled. We're wrapping up our V1G vendor selection and contracting, really hoping we can get that in front of the board next month. And finally, we're working with our policy team and our customer data team to make sure that our flex load strategy is a tool for our compliance efforts. So we're actually using our V1G program is our plans to use that for our load management standard compliance with the CDC. We've been aligning our bring your own device program and water heaters with the state's preferred water heater installation process through the tech program. And then we're talking about how our load management, our flex load strategy aligns and supplements our local development goals that we've agreed to as an agency. And that's my last slide. Love to get questions if there are any.
Thank you, Tim. Marty, do we have any public comment on this item? Thank you, Marty. Committee members, any questions or comments? Committee member Montero Adams?
Tim, thank you for the presentation. This is me just catching up on some of the terminology. I'm familiar with V2G, but can you explain what the difference between V2G and V1G is?
Yeah, definitely. So vehicle to grid is, as it sounds, bidirectional. So we're controlling how and when we put electrons into the battery and then out of the battery. V1G is kind of a half step back from that. It's controlling when and how and the power level that we're putting electrons in. So if you come home and plug your vehicle in at 5, we will use software to, based on your preferences as a customer, control when we deliver those electrons. So a lot of people schedule their batteries to start charging at midnight. If everyone charges at midnight, it creates a peak. So we'll use the software to kind of spread that charging out. Again, managing the load, managing the RA requirements.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Member Emerson?
That sounded like you had a lot of work the last couple of months, and so congratulations on the efforts. And so do I understand you have a DERM, am I pronouncing that, the DERMS, the management system contractor on board already, and you can announce it, or it's still under negotiations?
It was board approved last month, and we executed the contract the following Monday. So it's a company out of Louisville, Kentucky, called Virtual Peaker.
So congratulations on that. I'm sure that was a lot of work. So they must have similar experience in other projects in the United States, or I mean, this is all happening simultaneously everywhere where people are developing these kind of systems.
Yes.
Can you share, for example, what they've done in the past?
Yes, I can. They have a number of utility and load serving entity clients, which is why one of the reasons why we contracted with them. They're working with Green Mountain Power in the Northeast that has a really progressive programs around battery storage and water heat. They're working with the Sacramento Municipal Utility District on a water heating program, Portland General Electric on a battery program that's very similar to ours in a lot of ways. And they're also working with Pacific Gas and Electric and Southern California Edison on a heat pump water heater program, which has a lot of similarities to what we're hoping to do on the water heater front. So we're able to piggyback off a lot of the integrations that previous customers paid for to deliver more value to our customers and ramp up to speed pretty quickly.
Sounds like a good selection. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much, Tim. I know this is incredibly complex work, and I really appreciate you being at the forefront of this, and looking forward to hearing more updates. The evolution is very exciting.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Well, we will now move on to our standing items. As a reminder, the CAC may suggest agenda items for a board of directors meeting agenda by communicating with the CAC chair and designated community power staff before and or after a regular CAC meeting. If suggested at this time, as a reminder, there shall be no discussion or action by the CAC unless the item has been included on the CAC agenda. Do any of our CAC members have recommendations on potential items for our board of directors? All right, I'm not seeing any, so let's move on to committee member announcements. Do any of our CAC members have items they'd like to share today?
Here's something.
Member Emerson?
Yes, just sharing information. I was at our electric vehicle association meeting last night. There's a firm in Carlsbad, a local firm that is doing two things. It's helping how to reuse batteries from cars, for a secondary purpose. A lot of people wonder what's going to happen to the batteries when they get a little bit old on electric vehicles. There is a second life. And this company is actually working with Nissan in Tennessee on reusing some of the Nissan older batteries because they may not be powerful enough for the car's acceleration, but they're still definitely useful for energy storage. They're also coming up with the software they can plug into your car and tell you how, or if you're going to buy an electric car, how good the battery is before you buy the car. So that's a local company in Carlsbad, and these things are happening. So I'm just sharing that information. Thanks.
Thank you, Committee Member Sen. Any other announcements? Committee Member Hammond?
Thank you. I just wanted to share that the solar and storage project at Sherman Heights Community Center that received a community energy grant last year is now officially live. There was a lovely event on Friday where SD Community Power CEO Karen Burns and I both spoke at, and it was celebrating 40 years of service to the community as well as 30 years of the community center. And the architect of the building actually came up to me and said he wanted to create a sustainable building 30 years ago, and the city had declined that. And he was very grateful that solar is now on it, fulfilling his wish 30 years later. But yeah, so wanted to share the update that that's live. And we had I helped co-organize a climate funders event at that site. And now there's interest in supporting other projects, sustainability related at that center. And so it's just the trickle effect of one San Diego Community Power grant it's having, and it's impactful. So thank you. And thank you to Matthew for he spoke at that event and did a great job.
Thank you, Tara. Any other announcements?
Chairman, I have a request. I've noticed that we put on our consent calendar the program overview each time. We did that for September and we did it this time. We have a lot of nice programs. I would love that not to be on a consent calendar, but like we did today, the solar presentation was wonderful. It's only one of many programs. So I'd like to see somebody address each one of these, except other than the paragraph we get here in the consent. And then each one, by the way, next step was to give us an increase or an explanation in October. I found that interesting. Of course, there was only one on the solar battery.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that comment. I know that during our debriefs prior to the committee hearings, we do get more extensive debriefs on those specific items and can ask questions of staff in between, of course. And if there are specific programs that we want to see elevated, we could have them brought to the committee. There's a lot of exciting things that we'll want to talk about. So I agree, I think over time, and we can coordinate with CO on figuring that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoyt. Any other questions, announcements? Sorry. All right. Well, we are adjourned until our next regularly scheduled meeting on November 7th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,